that's an idea. Now that's an idea. Now that's an idea. Now that's an idea.
All right, and welcome to the show, Sam Rowland from the Tairāwhiti Environment Centre. How are we today?
Kia ora, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fabulous. The sun is shining. I've got tickets to Metallica this week. So
Nice.
life is good. Life is good. I don't think I could actually name an album that they've done, but I know the songs. But very lucky to have you on the show because this is kind of a follow-up of sorts, to the episode I did with Julian from the Eastland Forestry Council or Eastland Wood Council. And, it kind of felt like we gave the forestry company some airtime. So just need to give a bit of airtime to another organization that cares about the environment. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show. So I think first, if you want to happy to touch on, we could talk about the plans to have permanent vegetation. And then following that, there's a new recycling, reuse kind of center, resource recovery center, they're calling it. So we could talk about that after, but yeah. Did you by any chance, did you watch the episode with Mr. Julian?
Yes, I have watched it.
Yeah. And what's your take, not so much on what he said, but on the plan so far? Because I know there's a lot of people are for it, question it. It's probably going to cost a bit of money, but what's your kind of like hot take on this plan to get permanent vegetation going?
So my background is actually in ecology and nature restoration, regeneration at scale, as well as working with businesses to kind of get there. So when I came into my role at Tairāwhiti Environment Centre post the cyclone, I really had a pull to support the region to try and get more investment in so that we can actually fix some of the problems that we've got going on. We all know it, we all see it when we're sitting here. The sediment coming off the hills, the logs coming down our rivers, stopping us doing things that we all love to do, like surfing, hiking, and even just this year, loss of life from those events that we had as well. So when I came into my role at Tairāwhiti Environment Centre, I had the opportunity to join the Transition Advisory Group alongside a bunch of amazing leaders in the space of forestry, farming, community, mana whenua, and really sit down and try and nut out how we could do this here in Tairāwhiti. And it wasn't without its challenges as we were going through figuring out what to do. But I personally found the experience so fulfilling. We were sitting in a room with all of these different sectors, hearing everyone's diverse opinions and trying to come up with a way that we can actually get there. So for me, this plan to transition around 100,000 hectares roughly of pasture and forestry that is not great land, that's highly erodible, that's been backed by data that it actually doesn't stay on our slopes, is just really inspiring. And it's actually getting quite a lot of really positive feedback outside the region. But also I feel like no one's really done this before, where we've sat down and worked this out and figured out how it's going to go. And we're still going to work it out. We've got a business case that is going up to government that potentially is going to give us some of the funding that we need. There's other options to get funding as well. We're talking quite a lot around financial mechanisms in the terms of voluntary carbon markets, biodiversity credits, carbon credits, green bonds. And these are not aspirational things in the future. They're currently here now. And there's many organisations within New Zealand that are looking at doing it. In region, Aratu's got a biodiversity credit pilots forestry company. And this is looking at how we can make money off regenerating the land. So the landowner gets paid to plant the plants and do the work, but also gets a return on that investment too. So it kind of makes economic sense if you can start looking at it in that point, as well as just the sheer amount of money that we're spending in region on cleanup and the sheer amount of time that we're constantly in recovery instead of in strategizing and moving forward.
Yeah. So how I kind of looked at the plan and talked about it a bit, but do you know how will it actually work in practice? Like you said, like the farmers are going to do the planting themselves, or is it going to be like teams rolling around planting trees or drones? There's so many ways.
There are so many ways. The way that the business case is put together and the way that we've worked through the transition advisory group is that we're looking at setting up an entity, whether that's within council or outside of council, that'll run kind of the management and the governance of this transition. And within that it'll be locally led with really trusted people that know what they're talking about. And within that, the breakup is sort of, like money to run the entity and make sure things are actually happening. Money in terms of relationship building, because we can't do this alone, it's with everyone. And then there'll be intervention. So money towards areas that might need a bit of support in terms of planting or fencing, and then a chunk of money into pest control, which we heard is one of the biggest issues that we have here in region. I was driving to Napier the other day, and in 5 minutes I counted roughly 40 goats while I was driving, obviously driving at the same time. But, it's huge. We're not going to be able to get this done if we don't control the ungulates, so the deer and the goats, and our region. And then there's also money that's been put aside into science and evaluation. So, when you're talking about new technologies, making sure that actually what we're doing is backed in evidence-based data, that actually we're making a difference, that we can monitor what's happening. So this money will come in and will go to local people, scale up our workforce. We've got a whole bunch of people that set up amazing projects as part of Jobs for Nature, government funding, a lot of skills in the space of predator, pest control, planting. So for me I see it for our region as a real opportunity to help our rangatahi get the careers that they want out there in nature, to upskill our people that want to be out there doing pest control, want to be out planting, but also supporting the people whose land this overlay 3B or the indicative transition layer is on, because it's on their land, but this is actually for the betterment of all of the community. If we can keep this soil, if we can keep these trees on this land, we're not going to have all the impacts all the way down that we have seen in multiple weather events that we've had.
Yeah. So are you kind of confident that you think this is going to happen? If you're a betting woman, do you think the government's going to kind of cough up?
So funding's hard at the moment. I feel like the government will give us at least some of the money, but I'm also really hopeful in these emerging financial markets, that mechanisms that are coming through, that we'll be able to fund the rest of it. I've had 2 conversations today about this with varying entities across the nation and see the real potential of also overseas investment into this space. When you package up a document that says you've got 100,000 hectares roughly of land to transition into native vegetation, then people get very excited about the sheer scale that you've got and the opportunities that come with that. For a lot of overseas investors, New Zealand looks really great in this sense, because we have a lot of biodiversity, although a lot of it is gone, but compared to these big overseas countries, a lot of biodiversity and quite a trusted country to invest money in to enable this to happen. So I always stay on the hopeful side, because if you're not hopeful about it, especially in the environmental space, you never know, you're never going to get there, and you've got to be aspirational to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. Do you know much about carbon credits? Because I've done a lot of reading on carbon credits, and it's rather confusing at times. I know that there basically has to be a lot of research into a specific type of tree to understand how much carbon is stored, like per hectare. And there's not a lot of research into like native bush and how many carbon credits goes in there. So like sometimes it doesn't apply. Do you know what's going on in the space at the moment? Like, would native forests be eligible for carbon credits in the current format?
Yeah, so a couple of things on that. A lot of research and time has gone into understanding pine forests, and especially, Pinus radiata, and what that means in terms of lookup tables for carbon in New Zealand. So much time and money. The Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment just did a report on it actually recently. When it comes to native forests, there's not really a lot of research in that sense. They've kind of got blanket lookup tables for how much carbon native trees store. we know in Tairawhiti we grow trees really, really, really quickly. So actually, we're probably way above the lookup tables for carbon on native trees here in Tairāwhiti, which is great if there was money there to do that work more to update those lookup tables. The opportunity is there. Carbon credits, go and get carbon credits, you go and do ETS stuff, all of that. It's all mechanisms to get some financial return. But when you add biodiversity benefits, co-benefits onto carbon credits, what we're actually finding is that you can get a higher return on that. And so there is a lot of movement in that space. So how we create gold standard carbon credits, which have biodiversity outcomes, social outcomes associated with them. And actually in the voluntary carbon market, that's what a lot of these overseas investors are looking for. So community-led, massive social impacts, as well as native biodiversity, and then they get that carbon on top of it.
Yeah, and I suppose if you've got this kind of external community-led group that's like could potentially be the manager or something of 100,000 hectares, then they could kind of facilitate bigger sales of carbon credits, as you're saying.
Yeah, well, and it might be a mixture of a whole bunch of representative entities on this governance group. You know, it might not just be a purely community-led. You might have representatives from regional leadership. You might have people from outside the region that have got really solid backgrounds in this work. But the thing is that we need to make sure that the money we're getting in is going to the right activity at the right place. We don't want to be throwing money at a site that is actually, if you stop spraying it, it's going to regenerate natives on its own. You know, we don't want to be doing all this money on pest control to find out that actually the interventions we're doing are not working. So we need to have that really solid science evaluation base in this entity to make sure that what we're doing is actually correct and the impact that we're going to have is going to be felt for generations way after us.
Mm-hmm. Plan.
Yeah.
And then fire. So I think we can, happy to move on from forestry chat after I've just been talking to people about forestry for about 2 weeks after my episode with Julian. So I'm good on the forestry front now, but I'm actually just looking more at Tairāwhiti Environment Centre. What are you guys up to at the moment? Because I know you've got lots of different branches of things you're working on. Do you want to give us a little personal update?
Yeah, sure. So we basically work across 3 tile, so nature, waste minimization, and community resilience, which sort of packages all the other stuff that we've got going on, and really look at it from a people wellbeing lens with obviously everything we do is environmental, but we're really about, you know, community, connection, education. And so we have a shop, which you have been into, in Palmerston Road, where we call it a hub. It's got a whole bunch of product stewardship schemes that you can recycle. So things you can't put into your curbside recycling, phones, electronic e-waste. I could go on for ages, a bunch of them. We also have a wee shop that has a bunch of environmentally friendly alternatives that you can buy. So instead of buying things in plastic, for example, we have an office space, an education space out the back, and a wonderful community garden that we have a lot of volunteers that come in and help out in. And basically what we are working on at the moment, we're doing quite a bit around compost and quite a bit around supporting other organisations with garden beds and compost. So there's a big kind of Kai sovereignty. Compost is really important. Survey of our whole entire region found that about 40% by weight of our black rubbish bags are food waste. So, you know, if we get that food waste way down and turn it into nutrient-rich soil, then it's kind of like a win-win.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because it's like throwing away money, essentially.
Yeah. And you're paying when you're putting your bags out on the curb. And actually our waste levies, waste disposal fees are some of the highest in the country. So, you know, if we can get community compost areas set up, which we're doing at the moment in our community garden, where we can take a whole bunch of compost from our surrounding businesses and deal with a bunch from the community as well. If we can do that, then you're basically making beautiful, rich soil.
And the other thing about compost is that it's so easy. It's like, you know, like there's some kind of things that are environmentally beneficial they're kind of hard, if you want to like cycle everywhere and it's raining, you're like, oh God, this is more difficult than I want it to be. But like composting, you just pretty much just chucking it in a bin and it like does
Yeah.
it itself.
Yeah. A little bit of science, a little bit of art, and it's there. We also have a big project happening around construction waste and looking at a reuse centre for that, whether it's commercially viable to set one up in regions. So construction and demolition waste is one of our highest waste streams to landfill. So just trying to change the system a little bit in that sense. We are doing a lot of projects out there on the ground. So we've got a Y Connections program of work that works with a bunch of catchment groups and regions. So farmers looking at capacity raising in terms of environmental aspirations. So wetlands, planting, growing natives, all of that sort of stuff. And I could go on and on. We have heaps of work
I know.
that we sort of walk across.
How do you find the time? Or is it dispersed over many people? Or
We
you
don't
just
have a
very
massive
busy?
We don't have a massive team. We've just got a very mighty team that are super passionate, and we work in partnership with a lot of organisations as well. For us, it's like, where's the opportunity in region? And a lot of that is combined with, like I said earlier, the social impacts, the environmental impacts, but also the economic opportunities as well, and how we make it easier for people in our region to do things like, we're not paying huge costs for waste, or we've got options where we can actually reuse and recycle things. We can do our renovations where we're not paying massive amounts for wood, because we've got wood that was going to be waste that we can now pick up from a reuse store. So
Yeah,
passion.
yeah. So that was one of those ideas Ian Allen had when he was going for council, was this kind of hybrid GDC Environment Centre reuse kind of shop. Is that kind of in the pipeline, or just a dream? Because I know there's got this resource recovery centre that they've purchased land for in Lytton Road. Is this all the same thing, or is it separate?
No, this is separate. So this construction reuse feasibility study is funded by Ministry for the Environment and Trust Tairāwhiti. So it's separate than what GDC is currently looking at doing. But on the resource recovery centres, and when we're looking at one in region and we look at other regions, we can see really great examples of where community-led centres do wonderful things for the economy of the region. So there's one Seagull Centre in Thames. We did a bit of research on it. It's a bunch of local employment. So they employed 21 people. They diverted 500 tonnes of waste from landfill, waste in inverted commas because it's not waste. They managed to turn over close to $1 million for operations. They give out grants of up to 25K to the community to undertake waste minimisation. And this is all led by a local community doing this work. So when you look at Tairāwhiti and you look at some of the waste issues we have, like we ship our waste or in a truck up to Bay of Plenty, 300 kilometres away. We take our recycling and ship it to Tauranga or Hawke's Bay and then ship it overseas. And so we don't have a local landfill. We don't really have anything like this. So how can we do it in a way that's right for the community, meets the aspirations of the community, but also is able to give back to the community as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was just reading on that how much we actually pay for waste. So we're paying it sounds like we must be paying like the highest in the country. It's like
Yeah.
$500 per ton, where other
Yeah.
people are paying as little as 220, which is
Yeah.
it just sounds like we're being fleeced by shipping it away to other places.
Yeah, and we create the most recent data out on waste says that we create 19 tonnes a year of waste that's going to landfill, which is equivalent to 3,000 Gizzy buses. So, public transport buses, which is ridiculous. So imagine the amount of emissions and costs it takes to ship all of that up to Bay of Plenty. But then we also have massive amounts of illegal dumping. So the
Mm.
numbers I pulled on illegal dumping, so we have got in 2018, it was 44 tonnes. In 2024, it was 727 tonnes. And that cost us close to $500,000 to deal with. And so council's spending that money to deal with that illegal dumping. You'd think that if we kind of could get lower waste disposal levies, maybe that might help with that a wee bit. And if we have ability to keep that waste out of landfill in the first place, so my comment earlier about the 40% of our rubbish bag by weight is food waste, like if we're setting up compost facilities, then it's kind of a win-win, really.
Yeah. I mean, you just think about, well, I don't know how much 40% of like the waste costs would be over a year, but it'd be a high amount. And I'm sure you could just, instead employ someone to go around to people's houses and be like, hey, have you got a compost bin? Would you like one?
Yeah.
It's gonna save us $1 million.
Well, even, we run workshops. Our workshop schedule for 2026 is just about to drop, but we have got a compost workshop every single month of varying degrees. So Bokashi, black bin compost, worm farm. We really back the idea of having these compost hubs. So it could be at a school, it could be at a community garden, it could be at a marae, and the community can take their compost there. So not everyone needs to have a compost bin at their house. There's just a place where they can take it, and then they can come and get soil if they need it. If they don't need soil, they leave it for someone else. But yeah, could lower the cost of your waste disposal or the amount of bags you're putting out quite significantly in some areas of Tairawhiti.
Yeah. So where are these? Have you got any of these waste hubs started up?
So just the one at our site at the moment, which is just about to go live. So we managed to get a bit of funding out of the Air New Zealand Every Corner Fund. And so we're in the middle of making a pretty snazzy place. We just got the worm bath put in the other day, and we'll be able to process up to 2 cubic meters of food waste. We'll create 2 cubic meters of compost, from our surrounding businesses once it's fully operational. So as well as being just an epic education site for people to come and see what their options are when it comes to composting.
Yeah. Oh, so you're gonna take food waste from, Bakery 22 or something like that, and
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, well, yeah. plus a few other nutritious, fruit and veg. So it could be the physio down the road, or
Oh yeah, I suppose you don't want too many pies. That's
no, worms might like it maybe, but
Yeah. No,
yeah.
awesome. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was just the recycling, because when I was when I was working at the Gisborne Herald, I had people coming to me wanting to break the news that Gisborne's recycling is actually not recycling at all. Like a lot of our things that we try to recycle actually go to the dump anyway. So I was wondering, just do you know much about what's up with recycling in Gisborne? And also, I've heard recycling from yourself and others is kind of like greenwashing, where it's not called downcycling, is what someone called me. Where you kind of almost every time it gets worse and worse, and so it's just slow rubbish.
Recycling, I wouldn't call it greenwashing. I'd say it's the first step on your waste minimization journey, but there's so much more you could do. So reuse, go to not just buy something in consumption and then throw it out or put it in recycling. So it's better than putting it into landfill, but it's still not the best option when it comes to reuse, repair, repurpose, those sort of other words, I suppose, in the waste hierarchy. So I know a little bit about recycling in region. I know over the years that our recycling has slowly declined while our waste to landfill has gone up. And I don't know why that is. We don't have data from that. So, and by we, that's council's responsibility to get that data. So that is definitely something that I feel like we need to spend a bit more time on, is understanding the data when it comes to waste minimisation. What are we looking at? What are the barriers? What are the enablers to help that change? And maybe, as you say, it might be that people's perceptions are that recycling, they'll spend all this time and effort putting recycling into their black bin, and then their black bin will just get chucked into the landfill anyway. So why are they doing that? I know that that's not happening. Usually, if that happens, you can tell because the rubbish truck picks up your recycling out the front of your house. So, because I actually asked council this question when I was talking to them one time. So, they are adamant that if the recycling truck is picking up your recycling, it is going over to the waste place and then getting shipped to Hawke's Bay or Tauranga and then getting shipped out further. But I think the message on that is really like we, as a world, as the whole entire world at the moment, our consumption is really, really, really high. All of the stuff that we buy basically comes from nature, and then we use it for such a short amount of time, and then it goes back into a dump somewhere. And we know, even in region, we've seen some of the impacts of landfills that have been flowing out into our awa, out onto our beaches when we have massive storms and stuff. So it's really around how do we lower the consumption ourselves, and if we can't do that and we need to buy something because we are only human and sometimes that needs to happen, what can we buy to last rather than something that's super cheap off a site that is made in China by slave labor, or so it's sort of how we buy to last, and if something does break, how do we repair it? When our workshop schedule drops, we also have a bunch of repair workshops that we are going to be offering, so sewing, electrical, etc. So you can bring your goods into us free of charge and get them fixed.
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah,
because we are kind of in this world that's just addicted to buying things, basically, and it's bizarrely, there's a whole lot of this crap is even cheaper. Like, life is getting expensive, but somehow you can buy something off Temu and it gets shipped to your house for like $3.
yeah,
But then, unfortunately, most of those things you can't even repair,
yeah.
So
Or you can repair it and it's going to cost you $50 to repair it and $3 to buy a new one. We have actually got an amazing volunteer at the moment, and he's very tech savvy. He's probably in his 70s, and he's very, very tech savvy. And we've got an e-waste repair scheme, well, recycling scheme. And so we've been taking people's e-waste and then shipping it to get recycled. We usually have about 10 tons of that per year that we divert from landfill. But we were like, again, recycling, tip of the iceberg. How do we go deeper? So we started this repair service, and so he goes in and repairs a whole bunch of the laptops, pulls out the screens that still work, gets all the cables out of there, and in 5 months we've diverted 1 ton of e-waste out of the recycling scheme and into people's hands in the community for free that would like a laptop or a screen or a cable.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's like a pretty cool, amazing success story of one volunteer and a staff member with quite a lot of passion in this and making it work, and a bit of funding from an external source.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So people could bring down things to recycle, but also electronics and whatnot.
Office e-waste, 100%. So, mobile phones, computers, laptops, screens, cables.
Oh, cool. I think before we go, just how can we get involved in this, like in these community composting? This is one thing that's like really stuck with me because I think it's such a good idea. What's the next steps? Can we back it? Can we put some money into it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can 100% put some money into it. We've basically got like a whole case written up for these community compost collectives. We just need a bit of investment to basically scale it up, and you can see one in action at Tairāwhiti Environment Centre. But we also have a Tairāwhiti composting collective, so anyone that's into composting can come and join it, and we sort of meet and chat everything soil, and come to one of our workshops, give us a call, drop into the centre. We're always there, and we always love to chat about these sort of ideas and support community to kind of scale things up. Like, there might even be a school or someone's house in a street somewhere that wants to do this, and we don't need investment to even get it off the ground.
Yeah, all right, that's a good idea.
Now that's an idea.